Hello and welcome to the next edition of the Ivan Show. Uganda's state of politics is in a twist, and the judicial role also of late, just of recent 31st of January 2025, we have seen the Supreme Court say it is not in the jurisdiction of court-martial to try civilians in their court. However, shortly after the ruling, the president came with a tweet suppressing the ruling, and even the CDF came up with a tweet that was in contrary with the Supreme Court. The leadership at Parliament also has been in spotlight for some time. So it is on these grounds that I bring you a former leader of opposition, senior citizen, and a professor to deep dive into these discussions, and we lay a foundation to the management of this country, Uganda. Professor Maurice Ogeng Latigo, welcome to the Ivan Show, and thanks for allowing to speak to us.
Thank you very much, Ivan, and greetings to your viewers wherever they are.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor. And you have participated in the politics of this country, and you have seen Uganda come from multi-party dispensation. You have seen Uganda appear without multi-party dispensation, and you have seen embrace multi-party dispensation. From the start, I think you were the first leader of opposition since Uganda restored multi-party dispensation in 2005.
Yes.
How do you compare the management of this country since 1886 and before it received multi-party dispensation and now?
Well, thank you very much. Normally, I refuse to accept that the political history of this country starts with 86, because I lived the periods before then. I was in primary at Independence.
In primary what?
Primary 2.
But there you were still young. I think
I think I was already in the making of a professor, so I have very good memory. So I remember we went to the sub-county headquarters. They slaughtered animals for us. They gave us sodas to drink. That was very exciting for kids. And then things changed. Amin came. I was in secondary school. When Amin was still there, I joined Makerere, and I saw everything about Amin, and also participated. I used to be the errant contact between the Ugandans in exile and those who were here. The organization that had Andrew Adimola, who was a former PS, as it said, John Timber was a member, Ambrose Okulu, late Ambrose Okulu, and Onyango Dongo, who at one time even served in the NRM secretariat. They were the group, and I would, as a student, the trains were still working. I would go to Nairobi, meet them and come in. So I kind of started this a little early. And when Obote returned in 1980, that is when my interest in politics was slightly revived. But I had a commitment to academics. I'd spend my time reading, and I said, I'm not going to throw away all these readings. I'll stick to academics until I become a professor and I've done my commitment then I would join politics.
So being a professor was a dream from childhood?
Not childhood, but from Sir Samuel Baker, we used to have a joke that I've already done all the details for buying a Mercedes, but there's only one minor element left. He said, what is it? He said the money. But the ambition to own a Mercedes was there. The money wasn't there. So what you do is you work for the money. So that time, I also had that ambition of becoming professor, particularly when I came to Makerere. The professors used to drink somewhere in Wandegea. They call it Hotel Paris.
So you just knew that by being a professor to will avail you an opportunity to drink the same wine?
No. We used to like to drink, but we would make sure we go and drink there because so that the feeling of a professor rubs on you. and sure. And then when Obote returned, he landed in Bushenyi, he landed in Kololo, and then his first national tour. Many people don't know, he went to Kabanyolo.
Oh.
Yes. The first.
Majority talk about the speech he delivered in
No, the first place he went to after landing in Kololo was Kabanyolo. And it was me and Professor Dipala, who were, they used to call us special assistants. We were the ones who organized and took Obote there. The problems that started in Obote's government, the conflicts, we used to meet in the late Dr. Adonia Teberonda's home in Kololo with Yona Kanyomozi, Fendru, Dr. Katabaleiro Amote. So I've been in Ugandan politics.
For some time.
Yes. And then when the NRM came to power and the time for elections came, you remember I told you I participated in the campaign of Dr. Semogerere because he asked me. And I would have stopped there because I still wanted to be an academician. But
as an eyewitness, whose election was stolen between Semogerere and President Museveni?
It wasn't plain theft at that time. That was, I always talk about the Akabwai. He was
Akabwai.
Yes, he was chairman of the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission did their part. The problem of the Semogerere campaign was that our team got tricked. Cecilia Ogwal was, me and Cecilia Ogwal, and we were very prominent people. Now, this guy said, how do we get the Baganda to abandon Semogerere? Because one of the rallies where we were going to go through Kasangati and Mukono, that day there were no taxis in Kampala because all the taxis went with Semogerere. It became a terrible threat. And Cecilia was tricked. He was told that Obote was coming to Nairobi and needed to meet her. She did not tell me. And she went. Now she went to Nairobi. On our way back in Entebbe, the government had prepared for her. They arrested her, the media was there, it was put in the newspapers. Hey, Cecilia had gone to Nairobi, Obote now is in Busia. And Buganda votes just disappeared like that. Even in his own polling station, Semogerere lost. That is how that election went. But otherwise, if it wasn't that, it was a very tough election for...
All right, Professor, straight, let's go to parliamentary leadership. You saw the period when Idi Amin Dada abolished parliament and the management he provided during that time. And you have seen when Museveni has restored parliament, or even Obote, you became a leader of opposition. I read, according to to the publication of Independent on June 23rd, 2024. He said the current leadership of Parliament is substandard, both the Speaker and the Deputy. Reason being, you said our Parliament is like a district council. You expound on that properly for the viewer, because we have seen Parliament, some people call it even a house of a ring, a boxing ring, and even others call it a house of thieves.
You see, in the first place, in normal African tradition, there are chairs that elders sit on. Even when you have the biggest degree in the world, you don't sit on those chairs.
That's true. Because
you are not an elder. The parliamentary leadership positions of Speaker and Deputy Speaker are very senior positions, even in the national hierarchy. In other words, somebody who is there must have the capacity to handle the things that those immediately above him or her, the president, the vice president, the chief justice, those are the ranking of where the speaker falls.
Yes.
But then you ask yourself, and this is not insulting anybody. Ask yourself plainly. Do those who are now speakers and speakers, if this country was handed to them, would they lead this country like President Museveni has led?
People say they can, but now we are seeking your opinion. For me, really, I don't know.
They can't. Because first of all, the structure of the institution requires credibility, national credibility.
So they are not credible?
How many people really know them in this country? How many? They know Latigo. I mean, I go to the villages anywhere in Uganda, and they will say, hey, is this not Professor? If they went suddenly without escorts, etc., nobody would even care who is passing. That is a fundamental difference. Secondly, you must have a record of service that shows that you can manage. Both of them don't have any such record. They were never heads of committees and distinguished themselves as chairs of committees in Parliament. They never did that. So where is that strength coming from? And people, you hear lots of things about how funds are misused in Parliament. These are facts. How people get money in funny ways. These are facts. And how the leadership of Parliament literally work under the instruction of the President. That is not what it's supposed to be.
It should be independent from the executive.
Yes, because it is a distinct arm of Parliament. And that is why when the issue of General Muhoozi is not appearing in Parliament came, I was interviewed, and I said, this is wrong. And the worst thing that happened was that the Minister of Defense came to tell them that CDF is not coming. How can CDF send
his boss?
Yes. And that is how those guys would be if they became presidents of this country. And they will be instructed what to do by people who have credibility within the government.
Do you entirely blame their poor leadership entirely on them or the system?
No, it is not. It's not blaming even. I'm just pointing out a fact. it is unfortunate that that is a reality, and I can't be shy about it, because it would be my credibility at stake if I don't point out something which is wrong. And because I know how it would be. If I was speaker, I would do things differently. You know, this thing where Zake got boxed by a call. The speaker cannot say, we have decided this. The speaker doesn't own parliament.
It is not her parliament.
No. She must play by the rules. If a motion is not brought, you don't, as a speaker, decide that the motion will be heard. No. And you don't even own the motion. The people who own it don't want it to appear. Same thing that happened when the motion of censure of Zake came. The censure is a complaint about you, and you preside over it. Do I really have to say any more thing to tell the country that that was ultimate incompetence?
So they are moral and professionally incompetent on how they are handling parliament.
Let me tell you, the biggest tragedy that we have is not what you see in parliament. The biggest tragedy is that after so much sacrifice that brought the NRM into power, and even the work that the NRM did in the early years, in spite of the war that we had in this country, the rebellion, that foundation that we should have built on to become a modern, progressive country, that foundation was left to rot. And now, whatever we try to build, we don't have the foundation to sustain it. The unfortunate thing is that we are all victims when things go wrong. And one time, some years ago, I wrote about PDM, abuse of NADS. An article I wrote, Mr. President, and this abuse of NADS. And I said, you know, I even contemplated using this to campaign against you. But my responsibility as a Ugandan tells me that this should not happen. Because they had sent Frisian cows to Agago under NADS. And who got RDC, LC5, Chairman NRM here, people who have never even owned cows, and they don't even know. Most of those animals died. And for me, it was painful. Because that is a national resources that could have done something better.
Productive.
Yeah. So, even in this circumstance, it's not about the speaker or the deputy speaker. It's about the country. And the fact that unless we individually and collectively humble ourselves, you know how those leadership of parliament speak.
Professor, on the 10th February, this very month, 2025, the Secretary of PLU Patriotic League, confirmed by their chairman, General MK, have declared to hold a peaceful protest parliament, reason being there is excessive corruption. And we see the speaker and almost all the government ministers involved. It is alleged that the speaker participated in different scandals. That's what it is alleged. When we look at the Prime Minister and all her ministers, Mabati. When you look at this Sago, Vumbuga, and commissioners, the money. So you see, Parliament, almost all the high deciding positions are involved in corruption cases. What is the origin of all that corruption?
Corruption never gets born like a child. Because then you know the birth date and, and the mother and the father and the uncles. Corruption is is like cancer. But you only know there's corruption when you feel the pain. Just like you only know that you have cancer when maybe some part of you is not working normally. And then you go for medical checkup. And then they find you have cancer. But if you are lucky, it would be stage 1. And it can still be cured. But most times, because today you wake up and you say, yesterday I worked too hard. Maybe this pain is because of the work. And you kept postponing. By the time they realize it is stage 4, like I talked of FDC, I said, they're in state, we're just waiting to bury. So that is the challenge. Because I know, I was here, the kind of corruption that we see now. 86, 87, up to 90 something. If there was any pilfering of funds, it was very minor. It was more or less related to opportunities that only very morally strong people would not take.
At that time, the country was a project.
Yes. But then later it became like in our place they said, when that elephant falls, it is not like an antelope that has fallen. Because when an antelope has fallen, you have to cut the leg properly, cut the arm, But when an elephant falls, it is who has the sharpest knife.
Who
takes the most meat. There are no rules. Unfortunately, corruption in Uganda have reached that stage. The sharper your knife, the bigger chunk you cut and carry on.
But how do you rate PLU? They say it's not a political organization, but you see, it is largely involved in politics.
PLU is by the way, as an entity, I'm not given thought to it. Because the person who is leading it should not be in politics.
The constitution does not mandate him.
No. General Muhoozi should never engage in anything political. No. And so when the PLU is about General Muhoozi, who is a serving military officer, then I will not waste time examining PLU. I will tell General Muhoozi, you are a serving military officer in a government that was brought by your father. Whatever you do becomes part of the history of the government of your father. My strong advice and appeal to you is get out of the military, join politics.
It is okay.
Or leave politics alone and serve the military. Period. And PLU and that demonstration that they are trying to bring, when General Muhoozi is still a military person, and then you hear the military now asking for a budget for elections, tells you that the coming election is going to be about the military and violence. And I keep appealing to Ugandans, this country is very fragile. If anything goes wrong, this country will go into ashes. And when the country is burned down, it doesn't choose the color of the dress you wear. It will get you. And until Ugandans understand that, they will not shift their energy from this fratricidal politics to doing the things that would allow us to tap the potential of our country.
Before we go away from General Muhoozi, we have seen him have a lot of controversial tweets. Yet, the father believes in Pan-Africanism. Where does this leave our diplomatic relations with our neighbors?
In the first place, I don't know how those countries interpret his tweets and where it comes from a serving military officer.
Mm.
Most countries will say, if this soldier is doing this, then it must be with the consent
of the president.
Of the president. Because in their own countries, a soldier will not do that. And they will not judge you by your standards, which they don't know. They will judge you by their standards, which they know. I mean, you people travel to Nairobi, travel to Dar es Salaam. How many times do you even see military vehicles? You don't. If they want to travel, they will wait at night.
But you yourself, do you interpret them seriously, or you think is joking?
No,
because it is a tweet after tweet.
It's not joking. Because anybody who has time to joke like that would be worse than a joker. So he's not joking. And one time I will find time to, because I've never met General Muhoozi at a
one-on-one.
Yeah, if I meet him and I talk with him, I'll try to understand. I'll pick a few things that I'll say, oh, this is, even the way you construct your sentences tells me who you are. But we have never had this conversation. The tweets that you see, I avoid reading them.
You don't read them?
Occasionally I read here and there, but they don't attract me. Because it's just a wrong thing. And secondly, it will force me to have an opinion that I should not have.
So you restrain yourself from...
So I keep away. There are better things to do.
All right, Professor. About multi-party dispensation, you have seen FDC. Actually, you are one of the founding members of FDC.
Yes.
You appreciate the multi-party dispensation. You saw the fracas in that FDC. And we have seen even majority of the new political parties, even old ones, NRM, have some issues, something we feel we should pick an opinion from you. And now we have another part of BSJ is trying to begin a new party, PFF. Do you think creation of more political parties will solve the political problem we have, and how will it help Ugandans?
No, you see, what you are seeing, and you described it well, what you are seeing tells you something. That the commitment to each of these parties by the individuals is not about some ideal. That they believe I can pursue this ideal through this party. It is not ideology. The NRM, when they came, they had ideology. Now that ideological issues has gone. And so what remains of our parties is basically self-interest on all sides. Where can I get the best out of belonging to a party? Now, if you go to Gulu, there are people like Anthony Akol, Mapenduzi. There are now people are even receiving the yellow shirts of the NRM. Why? Because they are convinced that if you don't belong to NRM, you cannot come back to Parliament.
Oh,
yes.
In Ugulu.
Yes, and
it was opposition used to come.
Yes, and their interest is to come back to Parliament and enjoy the perks of being a parliamentarian. It's not about service. It's not about standing for some ideal. And that's the challenge. So the problem really is that our politics as a vehicle for national development and transformation, that vehicle got stuck in the mud, and even the petrol or diesel. The tank got leaked out, so it cannot move.
Particularly on the party you started, what really went wrong?
What went wrong is making the party being about an individual. When we started the party, Dr. Besigye was not here. He was in exile in South Africa.
That's when you began FDC?
Yes, we started the party here, and then we took the party to him. The first National Council of FDC, we held it in Stellenbosch, in South Africa. And that is where we formally installed Dr. Besigye as the party president. Salam Musumba was the acting president.
When you were still in Uganda?
Yes. And then we urged him, you said, you are now party president, you cannot preside from exile, you come back. And that is how Dr. Besigye came back.
Yes.
But when he came back, and we started, some of us started feeling the problem. First, there were those who were in reform agenda with him, who considered that the FDC that we formed should be under their leadership. And people fought me. I mean, Reagan, although he came from Acholi, he was even in DP at one time, but because he contested in reform agenda and went to parliament under reform agenda, and Nanda Lamafabi, all those fought me very serious.
So internal fights were there, but
yes.
we are no longer brought in the spotlight.
And then when I became leader of opposition, it even ended up that I was a threat to Dr. Besigye. So instead of saying Latigo is doing very well as leader of opposition and is fulfilling the best interest of the party and the country, I became a threat to Dr. Besigye.
Was he also feeling that a threat?
Oh, yes. Oh, I mean, one time I wrote to him. When this nonsense was being spread, I wrote to him in letter and I said, my brother, you marry from the Byanyima family. That family and the family of Gino Bonyo, where I married from, consider themselves one family. And so, while I married in Gino Bonyo's family, because you married in Byanyima's family, me and you are brothers in marriage. If I ever thought you were not doing the right thing as a leader, I will seek a meeting with you and tell you. If I ever considered that I want to contest against you, you would be the first to hear from me before anybody else knows. And so these things that people do,
the propaganda that they are spreading,
yes, to divide us, deters us from doing the things that we need to do to attract the goodwill and support of Ugandans. He never responded to that letter. But I knew that I no longer belonged, because I defeated the late Sam Njuba.
Sam Njuba, yes.
For leadership of opposition. I was not appointed. We contested.
It was, but then nowadays it's
yeah, they changed that rule because they tried to remove me, and I said, I was elected. You generate a vote of no confidence.
So you served your 5 years?
Oh, I served the full 5 years. So the Sebugwaos even boycotted FDC headquarters until we sat down. And I said, look, these are the SMS messages I sent to Sam Njuba. I said, we are only two. Let us sit down and agree on who becomes leader of opposition. But they were so confident that they would win that they took it to a contest. And they were hit so hard. And 2008, When Besigye resigned and said he was renewing leadership, it was again about removing me, so they put Reagan to contest against me. And then they told the Baganda, said, it is this guy who stopped Sam Njoba, this is your chance. Again, they didn't know. You know, politics without connection, you can't do much. I have very strong connection with Buganda. So 2 days before the elections, I told Bwani Kabale, I said, come, we were preparing Nambole. I told Salam, I said, you continue. I'm going somewhere with Bale. So we drive. Kampala, Entebbe Road, Katwe, Bulang. At the gate, the askaris see my vehicle, they salute, open the gate. We go in front of Bulange, there were 3 guys in councils waiting to receive me. And we go to the office of the Katikiro. And the Katikiro was there, with the entire cabinet waiting.
Of Uganda?
Yes. So, when we were now going to go to the meeting, Bale chairman called this guy and said, you don't touch Latigo, he's Kabaka's man. Now, on the day of elections, the Jacksabit, the guys were saying, but you're not campaigning. I said, you all know me. If you don't want to vote for me, it's okay.
So you are very confident.
When the results came, Mpigi, Latigo, 170 something, Reagan 4. Masaka, Latigo, 200 something. People said, shed tears. But I don't do it to hurt people. I do it because that is what it should be.
All right. I see you have a very rich history about political parties, but now we want to tap in the judiciary. Just a day ago, that was 31st of January 2025, we saw the Supreme Court making a ruling over the trial of civilians in military courts. And Justice Catherine Bamugamerire and the Chief Justice Owinidoro, they ruled that the cases that the civilian cases in military courts which are running and those that are planning to run should cease immediately. But the president did not respect the ruling shortly after the ruling. As a senior citizen, former legislator, former leader of opposition, and other very many titles, I know I may need a PDF to even talk about you.
And they will, most of them will be irrelevant to the politics that we are going to talk about.
Yes. What did you talk about that?
No, the other day when, again, I talked about this, but I'd written before. You know, the Constitution says that the UPDF is subordinate to civilian authority. Now, civilian authority is exercised in the arm of government, which is Parliament, in the arm of government, which is the Judiciary, and even in the executive, where the UPDF is under a ministry whose minister doesn't serve as an army rank, but as an appointed political leader. And so if you are subordinate to civilian authority, you cannot grab the rights of the court to try treason. Nowhere is it written that where there is treason, the army court martial will try. Nowhere. Nowhere is it written that where there's an offense of illegal possession of firearms, because that statute is provided in the civil laws of Uganda. So what the military were doing is the very same thing that I have always opposed, and one time I told the president, instead of having these 10 soldiers, leave 10 seats as special elected. After the presidential elections, because presidential candidates don't get elected as members of parliament.
Yeah.
And so we end up with leaders of parties who contest being outside parliament. So instead of having the military, let us have 10 seats for special nomination. And then those seats will be divided according to the percentage each party got in the presidential election. That will allow parties to bring their opposition, their leaders into parliament as special nominees. What we are seeing about the military is the residual historical reality of the NRM. That it didn't come into power through political contestation. It came into power through a military struggle. And unfortunately, it gives NRM and our military the idea that they are above the country. No. You had your struggle. You didn't seek the goodwill of Ugandans to struggle, and you were successful.
And they always remind us that they fought.
Yes, they fought. But even when you found Uganda here and you fought. If Uganda was not there, what would you fight for? And even after fighting, the normal law of organic nature, the sigmoidal thing, you go, you prosper, you level out, and you decline.
That's true.
You must also accept that reality. Yes, you fought. But if we were to pay you being in power for 40 years, is that not enough payment? So don't invoke the fight. Now give us the reason why you should continue by meeting our needs.
Do you see any possibility of President Museveni bending law to judiciary?
When will it happen? I mean, he's talking of amending the constitution. When will it happen? If you bring it now before elections, every single person who votes for that thing, you remember what took the late Speaker Olanya out of Parliament? It was the removal of term limit.
Yes.
He was chair of the committee, and he lost. And all those who were members of that committee, none of them returned. So if the president brings this amendment that he is talking about, and Parliament accepts to consider it, those who will talk for it and vote for it, they will all be wiped out.
Professor, as we wind up our discussion, kindly give us the parting shots to Ugandans as we finish the discussion.
Well, I am grateful that on all occasions when the media talks to me, many Ugandans show appreciation for the things that I shared. And I would like to assure Ugandans that I have no personal interests in sharing this with the media and the country. But I'm deeply aware of where this country can end if we don't do things right. And I love this country a lot. I love Uganda. I love my home. You see the picture of the mountains painted on my wall. I want to live in peace. And when I work, I can thrive. But all we need is a Uganda where we agree on how to move forward. And that is an appeal that I've consistently made to President Museveni. That get an opportunity and get Ugandans to talk to one another, not the way we are now doing, talking at each other. Otherwise, I thank you very much, and I wish all your viewers a very hopeful 2025.
Thank you so much, Professor, for giving us your time and for a wonderful discussion.
Thank you.
We were here with Professor Muhoozi Ageng Latigo, and all he wants for Ugandans is to move forward, peace and patriotism. Thank you so much for being a lovely viewer. Please don't forget to subscribe, share, and like our discussion on YouTube, TMF channel. I'm Ivan Tukundane, and this is The Ivan Show.